I don't want her to be redeemed. I just want to know her story. A common misconception when it comes to Stella fans is that we're seeking a sob story that will excuse her of all her wrongdoings, when in actuality, we just want to learn more about a character that was thrown under the bus to make Stolas look better. Oh, hell forbid Stella having a deeper character beyond being a dumb, spoiled brat that makes her look just as, if not more, sympathetic to the man that she's been mistreating for over 17 years. She could have a sad backstory but still be cruel, like Catra, who is much worse than Stella, I'd argue, but I would never use that as an excuse to her, just something to look more beyond the surface. Looking back at the circus, Stella was put in the exact same situation as Stolas, arranged to marry a complete stranger and expected to birth an heir for his family's name. While everyone loves to throw a pity parade for Stolas when he was given the news, rarely do people realize that Stella was also a victim of circumstance. I bet Stella was told the news the exact same way, just given a picture of her betrothed, and where Stolas cried, she'd throw a massive fit, and rightfully so. Her and Stolas couldn't have been no older than 10 and were given outlandish expectations before their lives could even start. Boo-hoo Stolas, but boo-hoo Stella too. She was the one that grin and bear staying with a boring man for all this time. Granted, we don't know the extent of how badly she's been treating Stolas during their time together, outside of insults in that one on-screen attempt of backhanding him. It gives off the vibe of living and raising a child with your childhood bully in a sense. Stella carried his baby that his father, Paimon, asked for him to provide. Which is why I don't think Stella SA'd Stolas, since A, they were arranged to have a baby in the first place, so nothing about their relationship is technically consensual, and B, it's not as if Stella wanted to do it with him either. She just understood the assignment and wanted to get it over with as much as he did. Only difference is, Stella needed to pretend to want to sleep with Stolas just to get it over with for herself. Yeah, that clip people love to share to prove that she SA'd Stolas. How about playing the second half of it?
I'm glad one egg fell out of me so I could stop pretending to want to fuck his scrawny twig ass.
Whether Stella just laid an egg or carried Via for 9 months, she was the one doing the heavy lifting of what the Goetia family wanted out of Stolas. And we don't even know how she feels about Octavia. Either resenting her daughter for being the reason she was stuck with Stolas, or loving her because she's the best thing out of a horrid arrangement. But we get none of that, which makes Stella the biggest waste of potential and hell of a boss since Luna and Millie. And no, the irony is not lost on me that it's once again the women in this show that keeps getting the short end of the stick. Upon rewatch, I thought episode 1 and 2 were meant to parallel each other. You know, with wives finding out their husbands cheated on them, and going into a downward spiral of rage, seeking vengeance for such an act of betrayal. Both of these women wanted revenge, and with Miss Mayberry, she successfully got hers thanks to IMP, but Stella's is far more complicated because if Stolas is out of the picture, everything will be left to Octavia, leaving her with nothing. But I find Stella's motivation for revenge to be very muddled. At first we thought it was because she loved her husband and felt betrayed, but now that we know that neither of these two never liked each other, that's not the case. Could it be to secure her status and save face in front of her fellow royals? Well, that motivation is also out the window when you remember how she was loudly talking shit and mocking Stolas at their not divorced party, even insulting his performance in bed, since the goal of their marriage was to provide an heir after all. She only hangs around to keep guilt-tripping Stolas of what he did, but since it didn't really hurt her, again, why stick around him if not just to make him as miserable as possible, babes? She must have some other place to go other than the palace. She takes Via away on weekends, so that could mean she has another place to live, right? Oh, I find it to be such a one-note motivation since her feelings weren't hurt, nor did it seem to concern her social status since Stella publicly belittles Stolas anyway. So why get all angry if there's really no reason? Power to dominate him? I mean, yeah, abusers use power to control their victims, but really what power does Stella have over Stolas aside from belittling him and berating him? He holds the money, she was married to him, doesn't sound like her family comes from much, so I have so many questions that will never get answered because we won't learn more about her. Speaking of, when Stolas finally works up the courage to throw her out, she gets frustrated and leaves on one last threat, which, as the audience knows, it's Stryker, but unfortunately we also know how that went.
Change of plans, darling. I need the prick alive. We need him alive to get some affairs in order. I will pay you more to spare him and bring him to us.
Which leaves us with Octavia. We still don't know Stella's relationship with her daughter. Up until season 2's mid-finale, they've never had an on-screen interaction, just mentions of Stella taking Via away on weekends. And doing what, I wonder? Shopping, throwing parties, ignoring her daughter until returning her back to Stolas? I mean, clearly Via is a daddy's girl, but come on, there has to be something positive she likes about her mother, even if it is delusional. Stella really could have been like Mother Gothel from Tangled, taking advantage of her daughter's love for her own selfish gain and turning her against Stolas. I mean, with the amount of times he's neglected her over the imp plaything, I'd imagine it wouldn't be that difficult. But instead of Stella even being her own character, she's just an accessory to her brother. Andrelephus is the brains and she's just the pretty face who's expected to do as she's told and gets to keep living the lavish lifestyle by doing so. Andrelephus is used to guiding Stella, perhaps even manipulating her for his own gain. He seems like the kind of guy who would marry off his own sister to the next rich bigwig if it meant they could keep living the high life. Now this is the depths of Stella's character we could have gotten. A spoiled brat forced to grow up but is constantly getting manipulated and used by the men around her for their own benefit. Whether it's Paimon arranging their marriage, Stolas cheating on her with an imp, or Andrelephus forcing her to call off the hit. Stella had so much potential of being an interesting villain for the series, but instead she got reduced to being a dumb, angry woman that needs her hand held to complete the most simple of tasks by men. I'm not mad, just disappointed with how quickly Stella fell from grace just to make Stolas more sympathetic. As if to absolve him of his wrongdoings and the damage he's done to this family he sacrificed so much for that girl to have a normal life. Hell forbid the possibilities of Stolas being a more complex and nuanced character that actually makes him at fault for something, and him dealing with the consequences of it. He didn't even have to love Stella back, they just had to be on mutual terms and just keep living out this lie for their daughter, but no, messed it all up with the whole imp affair. And that could be the reason why she's mad, because of her social status at stake. Ugh. And at this point in the story, I don't think Stella is gonna get any better. Sorry, Stella fans. But hey, there's always fan fiction. Comment that subscribe, like your share. Thank you, everyone. I'm out of here.